You're about to listen to a podcast full of wonder, excitement, and discovery. It's time for an adventure through Odyssey. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Adventures Through Odyssey podcast, Odyssey Revisited. I'm Will here with John, and we're finally kicking off what might be the most anticipated Odyssey episode of the decade. The Best Is Yet to Come, Part 1.
Of the decade.
I mean, it's only 2023.
Oh, you mean of the last 3? Of the decade as in, like, the 2020s.
Yeah, well, I mean, really, what episode has been more anticipated?
There was the 6-episode album arc. I think people were pretty anticipated about that, but
That's true. But this
we
could
didn't
be our
know what
big
to
goodbye.
expect. Yeah, it's true.
Right.
So let's get right into it, I guess.
Yeah, The Best Is Yet to Come, Part 1. Eugene and Whit consider the future of breakthrough scientific research, while Buck and Jules try to hide their relationship from their parents.
Let's start with the Eugene stuff, because I think this
Yes,
is very two distinct episodes,
I agree.
like, in one. Okay,
This is
how...
like tonally like the Bible video game and the Connie's grandma dying episode. No, not Bible video game. The Imagination Station, letting kids walk again.
Oh, yeah.
Just in terms of like these, I could easily forget these are two separate episodes or the same
Yeah,
episode.
and they're gonna, like, merge a little bit, but I'm sure in, like, subsequent episodes. But okay, let me say this. I don't mind that it's, like, this big one, they don't really specify what disease it is, right?
Yeah, but it's kind of implied Eugene cured Alzheimer's.
Well, it's weird. I don't even... Yeah, it's like a weird thing, or, like, maybe the guy was in a coma. But, like, yeah, it definitely seems to be like it was for Alzheimer's.
Yeah. The other thing is,
Um,
apparently Wit's been helping him on this, and the whole time they've been talking about like it's just been a Eugene project in the fiction of the show, not like on podcasts and stuff.
yeah. Okay, I want to say this. Is there some big medical facility in Baltimore I don't realize? Because, like, what a weird, like, pull.
Yeah, I was about to. Baltimore is an interesting choice. It's probably because it's far enough away.
Baltimore?
I know. Yeah, we'll talk about that at the end of the episode in a minute. I am guessing either there is or they felt like Baltimore was far away enough that it justified a move. Like when Mitch went
Yeah.
to Virginia.
Yeah, maybe that's why, like, right? Because they've established DC is far away. They're like, well,
Yeah.
but okay, here's my one thing. I don't mind that they're, like, going for a big swing. I think that's fine. My one thing is Eugene's not a doctor. And I get he's like a tech whiz, but I'm like, you're making the, like, I feel like the head of, like, their, like, neuro medical group would need, like, a medical degree, even if it's, like, the research department. Like, it's just a little, like, weird, right?
Yeah, so this is a good point. I want to make a few notes here. One, I always thought Eugene was a computer guy. So if that's true, that implies nanotechnology. And a year ago today, we were listening to an episode where Jason had nanobots controlling his mind, and that was seen as a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like if he had been like he like figured out, like, how to do some huge, like, beneficial, like, I mean, they're trying to think of something that justifies getting him out, and I understand that. You want something where it's like, well, I understand why Eugene's leaving for that purpose, but it's just very funny because he's not a doctor.
Right.
As far
So,
as
and
he hasn't done a ton of medical related stuff.
I was about to say, like, he's occasionally doing chemistry stuff, so maybe, but I feel like whatever they did is a computer based thing.
Yeah, it's like they 3D printed almost, like, some part of the human mind and replaced it, is what it sounded like. I mean,
Yeah, a
obviously
little
more
bit.
complicated, but they're like, we, like, made a replica to, like, put in or something.
Yeah, so over under, we see Agnes by the end of this.
I hope. Like, I thought they confirmed Agnes died.
I need to double check because I couldn't find that anywhere.
But
So
I can't imagine they wouldn't, in that Tom Riley episode, have mentioned that.
I totally agree.
Um, but maybe I kind of remember us asking, like, what about this, so maybe they didn't confirm that. But Well, okay, you know what's gonna happen is there's gonna be this whole thing where he feels bad that that guy died and whether to do it, and then the guy's wife is gonna come back and it's like, you gave me like one more day with him, and that was
Yeah,
worth like so much to me, and like you know that's what's gonna
I
happen,
totally
probably.
I totally agree with that, and I'm sure that's going to be a catalyst. I do appreciate though that the episode took its time explaining to you, like, this is why it's not getting shut down. Clearly, he was going to die, even if they did like a smaller surgery on him. So
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. I mean, again, it's a little weird. It might be a memory thing if we really are rolling into more Novacom stuff.
I mean, maybe that's why, right? Maybe their whole idea is like, well, memory, like Eugene's done Novacom stuff, like brainwaves to radio waves, so it's like something related to that.
Yes.
But when he's like, I'm gonna make you the head of our medical research division, I'm like neuromedical research. And I'm like, but shouldn't he be a doctor? I don't
Probably.
even think Eugene has a doctorate.
I was about to say, like, couldn't they? I mean, I get making him the head of the department makes the decision a little harder, but couldn't they have like made him just a assistant or something,
Yeah,
or like an honorary role?
there's. I want to talk more about it, but there's not that much in this episode in terms of this storyline.
Yeah. So to me, the big standouts were okay. I guess Wit's been helping him, or Wit at least flew out to Baltimore with him. Which who's taking care of Mori and Susu?
Yeah,
Not the point of the episode, but was there any? I guess let's talk about the Eugene voice.
it's fine. I mean, on the phone call it was weird, but I think it was meant to have the weirdest static. I mean, you can tell it's not Eugene exactly. Like even some of the mannerisms aren't quite there.
Yeah. Right. So, if you didn't listen to that podcast episode, the official podcast episode, Townsend Coleman read all the lines, practiced Will Ryan's stuff, and they use voice cloning software. So, yeah, I would say 80% of the time, it sounds fine. You can definitely tell it's a little stilted.
I feel like it was when he was trying to do some of Eugene's like funny bits. It was like when he was trying to do like the game joke, which is such a weird Eugene joke because he's never really made like done. I feel like that's just not quite how he's done it before.
Well, I wondered if that was an inside reference. So, I don't know if you know this, but the episode Game Night was like begged to be written by Katie Lee and Will Ryan because they wanted to have another Connie Eugene bickering episode like License to Drive.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder if that was like a leftover joke from the Eugene version of that episode.
It's possible. I mean, it wasn't a bad joke. It was just
I
I was kind
agree.
of like this seems weird where he's like, "Oh, this game you came up with, Buck, is pointless." Like it does seem like a joke he would do to Connie. It seems
Yes,
a
I
little less
agree
of
with
a
that.
joke to do to Katrina and Buck.
Yes. No, I do
So
agree
you
with
might
that.
be right. It may legit be a joke, like a leftover joke from that episode. Because yeah, to Connie, that's actually like a funny joke that fits well. It's like a weird joke with Katrina and Buck.
Yeah, so speaking of Katrina and Buck, the Buck and Jewel storyline.
Okay, here's what I'm a little upset about. This is actually like a real good idea for an episode.
Yes, so here's the thing I said in my Instagram review. I think it might be better as a B plot as opposed to an underwhelming two-part episode.
It's true, like, but right now it's weird because it's almost in this episode more of the eight. Like, there's more time I think to this than the
Right.
actual Eugene plot, and I know that's gonna switch.
Right, but I agree with you. I love this idea.
Yeah, the concept of oh, we'll go to church events so we can be together because our parents will be happy about it. And we can get in under their noses about it,
Yes. So I'm
and then like
assuming
getting
this
caught, getting caught by the pastor being like, "You're good at singing, sing in church."
exactly. I mean, that's how it goes, isn't it?
Yeah, like I think it's like in my head, I'm like, that's a very like very good plot, and I wonder if this was a plot idea they had before everything happened.
Yes. I kind of
Like
agree.
that this was like a two-part episode or like a packed like one-part episode with like this premise. and then like Will Ryan died, and they're like, well, we can integrate some of this in here. Because it seems like a little weird because it's suddenly we're gonna have this plot which is pretty decent and funny, and suddenly all of a sudden you're gonna have like it being like about like Buck worrying that he's gonna move away from Jules.
Yeah, okay, I do agree with that. So I did want to point out one thing about the Wilson catching them and when they couldn't figure out what the story was about. I mean, obviously Wilson caught them. Wilson, if you did a paintball night and then expected the kids to sit through lesson time, I don't know what you were expecting there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm not mocking it, but I've never been to a church that had a fun event like that. Then, okay, everyone, before we eat, we're going to have a 20-minute lesson. Like, what?
Yeah.
Maybe that's just
Yeah.
me, but no, I really like this. And if it goes the way I hope it goes, it could be really interesting. Obviously, we don't want to encourage misleading people on a Christian values radio show, but it could mean they both come to Jesus, even though it started as something deceitful. Because they keep
Yeah.
talking about that's what they were praying about.
Right, and maybe that was part of their idea is that like this concept because I don't want to say like speed running it, but I do think they're gonna rush a little bit. Like they were probably both gonna become Christians by the end of this arc, or Buck
Right.
will or something.
My theory was always Buck was going to become a Christian, and then at some point Jules had to face a similar decision to Eugene.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely setting up because they talk about their reasons why they don't want to be a Christian.
Yes.
And so like they're clearly kind of setting up. I guess like to me, what maybe I don't know. I have to see how it fits within the rest of the story, but you could have done a real interesting story where this was like a 1 or 2 part episode where like right, it leads to them like kind of tentatively accepting Christ, and then like in the next album or something, then the whole Eugene thing happens, and now it's like, well, we just became Christians. If God's like real, why would he do this to us and separate us or like something
Oh,
like
that's
that?
good. But yeah, no,
But I have to see. I'm basing this off the first episode, and I just like the concept so much of like going to like the idea of going to youth events to like sneakily date.
I mean, it's a good idea, especially because it's usually the opposite. Normally, people go to youth events hoping to meet people.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
also, I do hate to keep railing on this. I don't think I've ever said this on the show, so I don't know why I say keep. Is there a reason Wilson is running the youth group?
I think it's Pastor Wilson, right?
Yeah, I know Wilson's a pastor. I'm just saying, like, is there no younger person in Odyssey they could have gotten? They couldn't have like pulled Marvin out of mothballs or something.
I mean, I just feel like they'll probably want. Here's the problem: they introduced Wilson, and they give him very little to do.
Well, he gets to tell stories in the club.
Well, yeah, he tells stories in the club, which is fine. But they're probably like, oh, it's like a thing at the church. It's like, let's just have Wilson be in charge of it. And then we also forget Odyssey's a small town. And so, like, probably, I mean, there's probably like several churches.
Right. I mean, I will say, if Wilson planned a paintball night for the youth group, great call there. Seriously.
Yeah, I would go.
Yeah, so I know. I think this four-parter is off to a good start. Let's
Yeah, I
let's
agree.
reconvene after part 4 and see.
Yeah. It's like I like where it starts. I like the pitch. I guess like me saying like, oh, it should have been 2 episodes. It's like I like the pitch so much. I'm just worried it's gonna like totally like get swept away. Because I mean, it depends. Is whether the next like how much is each one like them bearing into it. Like when is Bernard gonna show up? Like there's a lot of like questions I'm not sure about.
Yeah, so here's my thing about Bernard. If he is the surprise appearance at the end of part 3, I might be a little annoyed. Like, hey everyone, Bernard's back. Oh, you shouldn't have ruined that in the album art.
Yeah. Like, here's my question: is it gonna be like Eugene's leaving, so Bernard shows up? Is it gonna be like, yeah, if it's Bernard's supposed to be some kind of big reveal, that's a bad call. Or is Bernard just gonna show up into Wit's End all of a sudden? Or is like Eugene gonna go to Bernard for advice or something? Like, there's a lot of different things they could do.
That could be it. Maybe Bernard needs brain surgery. I'm just saying
Eugene's doing this all for Bernard.
that would be kind of sweet.
It'd be sweet, but I mean, here's the thing. Because I kind of want him to show up in the next episode,
Yes.
but I'm also like, I don't know what the vibe of this whole thing is gonna be.
I kind of agree. Maybe Bernard's in the choir.
Like, is Buck even gonna find out next episode that moving's a possibility? I just don't know when that's gonna play in.
So I certainly hope we find out in the second episode, because I kind of feel like in the second episode we need to start wrapping up the Jules and Buck story.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't conclude till part 3. All I'm saying is they made it 4 parts. I actually really like that this episode doesn't feel super self-indulgent, because I was a little worried if it's 4 parts, is that what they're gonna do?
Yeah.
I also deeply appreciate it does seem like Eugene's gonna be very present in all 4 parts, because I was kind of getting ready for he's in part 1, they write him out for 2 and 3, and then
I agree.
he comes back in 4.
So.
No problem. So, do we have any other notes on this?
No, I mean I think we covered a lot of it. I mean, I wish I feel like they make Connie incompetent sometimes. Don't
Oh,
put
you're referring to the
salsa on the pasta. Don't put salsa on the pasta. Isn't that tomato soup, not marinara sauce? Well, I guess we're having tomato noodly soup.
Okay, right. I get some people can't cook. To me, what killed the marinara sauce salsa joke was when Connie said, "I've only done it once." 4 times, Connie. 4 times. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
that
I'm
kills
like,
the
give
joke a little
Connie
bit.
some respect.
I know. I mean, like, to me, it's fine if her not being able to cook is a running gag, but I think that was a little silly. I do agree with that.
Guess I'm glad that Katrina's there to say, oh, yeah, Christians in high school can date if there's like maturity
Right.
there. Because I mean, I don't know with like Connie, right? Connie's like trying to be a parent, but it's weird because Connie did date a lot in high school.
Yes. I mean, actually, if Connie wanted to talk to Jules about dating a non-Christian, this would be the prime opportunity to bring Jeff Lewis back.
Oh please! If Jeff Lewis makes a surprise cameo, will be. What if like it's just like Jules like bumps into Jeff
Lewis.
Lewis by coincidence, like, and like talks to him about like his dating thing. It's like, well, I was in high school, I wasn't a Christian, and was dating someone who was a serious Christian, and it didn't go well. And it's like, oh, like he's like, this guy would be a real good match for my half sister. And it's like, I have a sister I could try to set you up on a date with.
I mean, honestly, that should be like a post them leaving episode where Jules is still conflicted about everything. That'd be a really good
Yeah.
plot. All I'm saying is, I liked the scene where they tried to break it to them. I like that Eugene's was a little more clinical. I thought Katrina gave a good argument. Connie was just very clueless that entire scene.
Yeah, I like having Connie. I don't mind Connie being comedic relief. But I mean, like, Connie's been a character for a long time and has been way more competent in the past.
Yes.
It's not like I'm like trying to I don't necessarily think this. Well, maybe. Sometimes it feels like Wooten's more competent and is given more respect than like Connie sometimes is.
I agree. It does kind of feel like once Jules showed up and they got over her mom's death, they turned her into kind of more of a goofy background mom character.
Yeah. Without like I feel like I could get a real good Connie like arc or something, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're sorry, everyone. John's wife
Right.
just delivered him a piece of cake.
It's it's like Chichi Dango or something.
Okay. So, now, speaking of your wife, did she have any spicy takes on this episode?
I think she thought the dating stuff was funny.
Okay. I mean, Odyssey dives into Christian dating. I can't wait for them to talk about the Christian girls who make being single their only personality on their social media. Which
They do
hopefully none of them are listening
certainly.
to this podcast.
I mean, it'll be interesting. It does kind of. This isn't their fault. It's kind of sad that they're really gonna like probably come out as like dating and having the Christian dating experience while they're long distance.
Yes.
But like you can't fault them for that. Like that's like a hard situation to be in. But it does make me wonder if they're gonna pull something like Katrina and Buck are gonna stay in Odyssey.
Or something like, oh, Katrina's going to be teaching remotely, but has to come back to Odyssey once a month for something.
Right.
So,
Like
or wait,
or
is
it's gonna be
Katrina a
like
teacher, or did she get a bigger job at the school?
I don't know,
Okay,
to be
well,
honest with you.
anyway.
I wonder, or they're gonna pull something like Eugene's gonna be like, I'm gonna commute.
Do you know how far away
Like
Baltimore is?
like we'll give you money to fly home every weekend, Eugene.
Yes.
Oh, the church whispering scene was pretty funny.
Yeah,
It
that
was
was good.
kind of weird, but it was pretty funny. They're like,
I think that would have worked.
oh,
That might have worked better as a slightly visual joke. I just wish it had ended with like Connie shouting something.
mm-hmm.
So
It's also weird because they must know. I mean, I get they're like best friends, but like a parent would like suspect, like, so do you like Jules?
yeah, I kind of agree.
Or do you like Buck?
I mean, Connie kind of brings it up in that episode where they get together. I could see Eugene being a little not on the ball about that
Yeah,
one.
it's fair.
Yeah. Now the church. Oh, that reminds. So speaking of Eugene, very last scene where he says we might have to move to Maryland. Like Maryland is such a
It
bad
was,
location
it
to
was.
move.
I'm like,
Now that could
you're
be
not.
the AI voice, but
It's true. Let me say this. That was very funny because they're like Maryland. Like, okay, one, I don't know if a kid doesn't know where Baltimore is. I don't know if he thinks they're gonna know where Maryland is. To be honest with you, I
that's
mean, he's
quite
more likely to know where
possible.
Maryland is than Baltimore. But like, they're like Baltimore, like Maryland, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So I think that wraps it up. So the next episode to hear from us is our August news roundup and part 2 because we'll record those on the same day.
will Eugene's adoptive parents show up?
I think it would be nice. I don't know if they'll be voiced by the same people, but it would be nice to hear from them.
Will Eugene's father and brother show up?
I mean, that would be the bigger pull, right?
Yeah.
Like, we'd inherently be a little more excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, they may just keep it at Bernard.
Yeah. So, I guess we'll see. I mean, I also think if they're talking on the podcast how good of a sound like they got for Bernard, he might stick around.
Well, yeah, I think the reason they announced Bernard is because I think they're keeping Bernard.
It is possible.
I think Bernard adds something to the cast, to be honest. That's kind of like, I think they've made their adults. I don't want to say too serious because I don't always think Penny and Connie are serious, or Wooten's not always serious. But I feel like they all have a serious like stuff going on in their lives, and I feel like to have an adult like Bernard again that's just like, well, time to squeegee this window.
I kind of agree. It adds a certain something to the show.
Yeah, well, because if they found a sound alike, it does seem interesting, right? Like it could be that they're actually like maybe they were thinking of casting Bernard anyway, like trying to find a Bernard, like someone to like take on like a role, like an old role, and they were like, "Hey, this guy sounds just like Bernard."
Yes. Yeah, I do agree. I also wonder if you're right that like maybe the Bernard comic was one of the bigger hits on the club.
Yeah,
So
I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, I think Bernard is a pretty well liked character, you can also add in without a huge stress of like having to have huge pivotal storylines surrounding them.
That's a good point. And also, the comic cleared up where he was. He went to Connellsville because there was more work.
Yeah. Also, like, good club character, I would assume.
I would kind of agree. I mean, right, that way we don't have as many portrait gallery episodes.
Yeah, get rid of. Bernard came back, so we're shutting down the portrait gallery. It's like we're shutting down the portrait gallery. We got Bernard back. We don't need this.
Exactly. So we'll see. I'm very excited to hear whenever Bernard comes back, but in the meantime, I am very excited to see how these two stories play out. I'm assuming like the Jules and Buck singing scene is going to be kind of ridiculous, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that wraps it up. August news roundup is next. Then
Oh wait,
part two.
that's a good question. Are they gonna play the singing thing like really comical on stage, or are they gonna play it like dead serious?
That's a good
Because they
question.
could play it like joke, like you weren't actually practicing, or they could play it like, whoa, this is so moving, like they're having us sing like "It Is Well with My Soul" or like "Amazing Grace" or something,
Oh, that's true.
and that's their like come to Jesus moment. Like I'm like they could play it either way. Like they could play it like dead serious, like this is hugely like moving for them, or they could just play it like for you guys were talking when you should have been practicing.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. All right, so I think that wraps it up this time. We'll see you for the news roundup and part two. If you need to know for the news roundup, and this is more a note for John, please read all of the comics because I have a lot of thoughts that don't have to do with how they're drawn.
Okay, I'll give
So,
them a read.
all right, I'm Will.
I'm John.
We'll see you next time.